Morning. I'm KC. This is Keystone Curiosity, where we talk about all things unique to the state of Pennsylvania. Today's episode is going to be the 5 must-see places for 2024. I'm a big fan of the outdoors, which has seen me exploring places like Pennsylvania's Grand Canyon and Bake Oven Knob. Most of the time, I just really enjoy places that remind me of how small I really am. And nowhere in Pennsylvania have I seen that better than Cherry Springs State Park. The park itself is beautiful. From the overlooks, the Allegheny Mountains stretch out to the horizon like waves on the ocean. Gravel roads and hiking trails allow for the peace and seclusion of the forest to be easily accessible. But beyond all that is the unobstructed views of the heavens above. Since the 1990s, Cherry Springs has become a highlight destination for astronomers and stargazing enthusiasts. On the clearest nights, over 10,000 stars are visible with the naked eye alone, and the park supports and encourages the use of telescopes and other equipment, even hosting events for viewing a night sky that can be found nowhere else east of the Mississippi River. Nowadays, the concept of a wheelwright or somebody who makes wagons seems a bit like a luxurious position. However, this was not the case throughout most of human history, as this was a necessary trade that was provided for society as a whole. Nowhere else is this trade preserved and displayed better than at Gruber Wagon Works. First built in the late 1800s, the Gruber Wagon Works had built and repaired horse-drawn vehicles of all types. It would be operated by the family and handed down generation to generation until it was purchased by the Army Corps of Engineers in the 1970s, who were amazed at the treasure trove that they found inside. Despite not having built a wagon in about 20 years, everything still remained as though the workers had merely stepped out for lunch. The tools and equipment combined for the most complete collection of this bygone trade here in the United States. A collection which was preserved in what is now Berks County Heritage Center, where it hosts visitors and guided tours, educating both current and future generations on the everyday difficulties faced by our forebears. I don't believe it's a far-fetched claim to say that the history that occurs here in Pennsylvania is perhaps the most important out of any state throughout the U.S. A portion of that claim lies in the woods and meadows of Fayette County at Fort Necessity and Jumonville Glen. Predating the Revolutionary War by about 20 years is the French and Indian War fought between the empires of France and Britain. The first shots of this war were heard at the Pennsylvania frontier with the involvement of a young militia officer by the name of George Washington. These events would escalate into a world war fought across 5 continents and the seas from the Caribbean to the Pacific. Now, I will admit I am a little bit biased as I have such a fascination for this era of history. But the National Park Service does an amazing job at presenting the grounds in a way that doesn't appeal solely to the history nerds like myself. A small museum and a short video outline the events for the populace to gain an appreciation for those days. But beyond that, a reproduction of Fort Necessity, complete with swivel guns, capture the attention of visitors as they walk the trails of the park. The Park Service goes so far as to hold reenactments, and have even built a themed playground to entertain younger visitors and educate them on the life in those days. Located in his hometown of Boyertown, the General Carl Spaatz Museum is perhaps the best example I've come across of a smaller museum that doesn't act like it. The museum outlines the 34-year career of General Carl A. Spaatz, who was the first Chief of Staff for the United States Air Force, and practically wrote the book on strategic bombing as he worked alongside Dwight D. Eisenhower during World War II. It also pays homage to the men and women of the service, with detailed displays and memorabilia. The reason I say this museum doesn't act like it's a small one is because of the extensive effort placed on making a fun visit for anyone who walks through their doors. Interactive exhibits will have you flipping aircraft switches and strapping on gear to climb aboard a Jeep. And perhaps the most unique and unforgettable section of the museum is their escape room. Passionate staff members brief you and your crew on your coming mission. Your perseverance and attention to detail will be put to the test as your aircraft is shot down behind enemy lines, forcing you to find the means to evade and escape capture from the pursuing Nazis. The old growth of Cook Forest State Park holds a rare majesty not easily found on this side of the Mississippi River. But with over a third of the United States covered in trees, it is fairly reasonable to ask what makes these trees so special. The short answer? They're old.
Old-growth forests are the original ecosystems for much of what would later become Pennsylvania. Despite the need for lumber as the fledgling United States expanded westward, the trees here were spared from the disastrous fates of the forest throughout the rest of the state. As such, there still remain some trees here that predate the formation of the United States. The part that really sets Cook Forest State Park on this list is the combination of such preservation and the plethora of activities and fun to be had. Hiking, canoeing, camping. Here resides a place for every member of the family to relax and reconnect with nature, finding a deeper appreciation for the life that exists all around them.
Each of these places is amazingly unique, and I can't possibly talk them up enough. If any of them did catch your interest, I suggest you check out my channel as I cover each of them in more detail in their own short videos. And while you're there, please take the time to browse through the rest of the places I've been to, which I highly recommend that you watch. Every view, subscribe, or like is very helpful to me and my efforts, and to be honest, it doesn't really cost you anything more than 1.5 seconds of your time to click that button. For those of you out there who do, or have done so already, thank you. I hope you all have a happy new year, and I look forward to making more videos in 2024.